Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to 15.1, which is entitled Sound. And sound is it's one of my favorite chapters because there's just so many really cool demos that you can do with sound to show all those properties we learned about last chapter dealing with waves. They have reflections, there's interference, there's diffraction, there's constructive and destructive interference. It's really, really cool. So we're going to be going through a lot of the different properties of sound, how your ear works, why do we hear, what's the speed of sound in air today. So we're going to start off right here with what sound is. A sound is just a pressure wave. It's a pressure variation that's transmitted through matter. And there has to be matter, meaning that you can't, this doesn't work, sound doesn't work in space. Like you see videos all the time of like things blowing up and you hear explosions in space, but if there's no matter for the wave to go through, then there's no sound. Collisions, when the air gets bunched together, we call that a compression. And likewise, when the air gets pulled apart, we call that a rarefaction. They have all the sorts of same properties, reflections, which we call echoes in the sound world, interference, beats, and noise canceling. Sound's speed. The speed of sound actually, I got an interesting video just to show you, to demonstrate the different speeds of sound. There's a guy, he lights off 100 tons of explosive, and I want you to watch. And there it was. The speed of sound is really evident there because this thing blows up and you see it. The speed of light is a lot faster than the sound. Then you hear a rumble. That's the speed. That's the sound traveling through the dirt. It goes faster through the ground. And then you hear the bang because the speed of sound through air is actually the slowest. Light, rumble, bang. And you can actually physically see the pressure wave, which we perceive as sound, emanating out as a bubble. So the sound depends on three things. What are you going through? Air or ground? What's the temperature? The colder something is, the hotter something is, and the pressure. Standard, medium temperature, and pressure. And we say that the speed of sound is 343 meters per second. That's the accepted value underneath what's called standard temperature, which is 20 degrees Celsius, and standard pressure, which is at sea level on a normal day, 1 atmosphere of pressure, which is 14.69 psi. So at 68 degrees outside at relative standard pressure, it travels at 343 meters per second. Now you can kind of see how the speed of sound will change depending upon different variables, like temperature, for instance. If it gets warmer outside, the speed of sound goes faster. And just think about this, like if we had zero temperature, if we stopped things moving, sound is things moving, so if we stop them, sound isn't going to go very quickly through there. Water, you can see it goes a lot faster, roughly 4 times as fast as through air. Then you get iron up here, it goes a lot faster. We're talking like more than 12 times faster than air. So the speed of sound depends primarily on what it's going through. A common misconception that kids tell me all the time, and I love doing this, when I hear a thunderstorm, people say, oh, it's 1 second per mile. No. 1 mile is 1,600 meters. How many seconds does it take 343 meters per second to travel 1,600 meters? It's roughly 5 seconds. So it takes every 5 seconds is 1 mile. So you have to count 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. Every 5 seconds is 1 mile. So common misconception, somebody lied to you when you were younger. Every second equals a mile. Not true. Loudness. I want to show you how we hear. Loudness is the amplitude, and we can hear an incredible range. Your hearing is a unique sense in that it's mechanical. It's the only mechanical sense of our senses. Everything else is a chemical sense. And I want to show you this video, and it explains exactly how your ear works. And I thought it was really interesting.
Many of us take for granted a very extraordinary organ, our ears. To understand the ear, we need to understand what sound is. The speakers you are listening to right now are vibrating, flexing in and out, causing a wave of pressure through the air. The frequency of these waves, or the speed at which the sound creating surface moves back and forth, affects the pitch of the sound. The level of air pressure in each wave is directly related to how loud the sound is. The outer part of our ear catches these waves. It faces forward and has a specially designed structure of curves, helping us to determine the direction of the sound and also emphasize the frequencies used in human speech. Now that the sound waves are caught, they travel through the ear canal and strike against our eardrum, a thin membrane about 10 millimeters wide. Now that we receive the sound, the middle ear transfers this energy. The smallest bones in your body, the malleus, incus, and stapes, start in motion. The malleus is attached to the eardrum.
Here's where it's
and
mechanical.
As the sound travels
it's using
along,
movement.
the force is amplified by leverage until it arrives at the stapes, which acts like a reversed piston, creating waves in the fluid of the inner ear. The most significant increase in pressure is caused by pneumatic amplification. The face of the stapes has a surface area of about 3.2 square millimeters, while the eardrum has a surface area of 55 square millimeters. Using this, along with leverage through the malleus and incus, the final pressure is 22 times greater than when the sound first arrived. Now we come to the most complicated part of the hearing, the cochlea. In reality, it is coiled up, but it is easier to understand straightened out. There are actually 3 chambers inside, but let's take a look at the central part. The stapes is causing pressure waves to travel through the structure. Along the inside wall is about 20 to 30,000 reed-like fibers. As the waves move along, they encounter fibers with the correct resonant frequency and energy is released. These fibers aren't actually what give us the signal that we heard something. There is a special structure next to these fibers containing hair cells. When the fibers resonate, they cause the hair cells to move, which then sends an electrical impulse to the cochlear nerve and onto the brain.
As a fun side note, those hairs, they do a lot of stuff. When we spin ourselves around in a circle and you get dizzy, that fluid is still moving, and we tell up and down using those hairs. Now, if you drink too much and you see people that are having a hard time keeping their balance because they're drunk, it's because alcohol has permeated that inner ear and it changes the density of the fluid inside there. Alcohol is a different density than the fluid does. So it makes these hairs float or sink differently. They're at a different neutral position, which gives you a sensation that gravity has changed.
Certain pitches of sound will resonate in specific locations, and louder sounds will cause more hair cells to move. Our brain interprets all this raw data, making it possible to enjoy things like music or an engaging conversation. Just to think that all of this is happening in your head right now at full speed. This is just one of the amazing systems found in the human body that go far beyond our humble human understanding.
Hearing. Hearing is an amazing process. I mean, we take for granted quite often that you can hear me talk and I can hear you talk, but it's something that's very incredible. And he went through, this is a picture that is in your notes to kind of talk to you, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Those are the 3 little bones. And this is your eustachian tube. When you pop your ears, this is the tube that's actually connected to your throat. And some of you, when you were kids, you had to have tubes in your ears because that tube pinched shut and it kept the fluid in there, and that fluid kind of gets full of bacteria and you have infection. So they put these tubes up in your ears to let fluid flow out, and that helps you, and like when you dive down into the water, the air pressure pushes on that tympanic membrane, and you plug your nose and you force air this way to equalize that pressure. Likewise, when you go up in a plane, there's less air pressure, so you get air trapped inside your eustachian tube, which is pushing because there's less air pressure. So then you pop your ears and it lets that pressure out. So we like to have our tympanic membrane here. We like to have that in a neutral position. Now, he also talked about, the decibel scale. That's how loud things are. For instance, the decibel scale it's a logarithmic scale, meaning this, that, if you look at something, these are going up by factors of they're just adding 20 every single time. 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20. They're going up by a factor of 20. But in reality, the pressure wave, like how much bigger is a 40 decibel sound than a 20 decibel sound? It's literally 10 times larger. How much bigger is a 60 decibel sound versus a 20? 100 times as large. An 80 decibel sound, like busy traffic versus a whisper, we're talking 10 times 10 times 10. An 80 decibel sound is 1,000 times as large. It's physically moving the air 1,000 times greater. Our human hearing takes place over an incredible range of pressures. So what they do is they assign a logarithmic scale to that to bring those numbers down so that they're more manageable. And then finally, pitch. The last thing I want to talk to you today is frequency. The frequency, the different pitches that we hear, I mean, these are just notes that I pulled off. Like, let's see, concert, this A, middle A, 440 hertz. That's what we call an A. If I were to play a 440, well, this is a 512. So this one right here, it says C on there. So you'll notice that it's probably like 261 times 2. So when I play this is going back and forth 512 times every second. And we hear frequencies as low as 20 and as high as 16,000. So we hear frequencies over a really large spectrum as well. Younger people can hear higher pitches than older people. I'll have you bring your parents over if you're sitting at home. We can do a little experiment on them right now. For instance, people over 70, they lose 8,000 and above. So they have a hard time hearing you because of the high frequencies that human speech entails. There are pitches that are above what we can hear, like dog whistles, bats. This is called ultrasound. And there is sound below what we can hear. We call that infrasonic. Just like there's ultraviolet light, which is light above what we can see, and infrared, colors below what we can see. There's sound above and below what we can hear. I have a quick little demo here for you. The looks at your hearing. I'm assuming, let's see if I can play this. I'm assuming you guys can all hear this. I'm sure that's super annoying too, but that's what an 8,000 hertz frequency sounds like. So here's 14,000. It's kind of fun to bring your parents over and see if they can hear the rest of these. Here's 16,000, like the upper limit of usually what normal people can hear. I'm sure I can hear that. I'm sure you could hear that. 16,700. We're getting to my limit. I did not hear that one. Maybe you can. I'll play the 18. I can kind of maybe hear something, but I think I'm gone at 18.8. So sound is a magical thing, you know, where it's got frequency. The frequency is what note you're actually playing. The amplitude is how loud it is. You know, your hearing works through the three smallest bones, and it's a mechanical process that sends a signal to your brain, and your brain can somehow magically understand it. It's an amazing thing. The speed of sound. We talked about the speed. We're going to continue on later with other different things like the Doppler effect. And when you look at all these pictures here, I've got all sorts of neat stuff that deal with sound. We're going to have a good time this chapter.